Every once in a while an older person comes up to you and spits some absolute bullshit advice about life, money, or anything, and you just have to sit there and nod along. But you know, as soon as that conversation is over, you're never listening to that advice ever again. So today I'm gonna go through some of the worst advice people give and explain why some of it makes absolutely no sense. Live every day as if it were your last. For the love of God, please do not listen to this, because if this were my last day on earth, I'd probably be charged with murder, assault, grand theft, and robbery, and also a whole host of other crimes. The first thing I would do is hit up my nearest bank, because you better believe I ain't dying broke. Then I would go to a Lambo dealership, get myself one of those cars, pull up to the people who wronged me, pull out a minigun and just let that spray. I would do all of that if it were my last day, which is not. You see what I'm saying? This can cause some people to do stupid things. It's like going up to a cancer patient and telling them, you might die, so don't give a shit anymore. And actually now thinking about it, isn't that basically the whole plot of Breaking Bad? A guy who realised he was gonna die and just broke bad? Yeah. So I rest my case. You made your bed, now lie in it. Not only is this phrase confusing, it's just a smart ass response. It's basically saying you've done something, now you have to face the consequences of your actions. Which is all good and all, but there's one thing. It doesn't help the situation. Imagine you tell your lawyer you committed arson and he tells you, you've made your bed, now lie in it. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That's why I hired you, so you can help me, not to state the obvious. But the problem with this phrase is that it points out something everyone knows. Of course people have to face consequences of their actions, but simply reminding someone of that doesn't solve the problem. So a better phrase would be, you made a mistake, now figure out how to fix it. Money doesn't buy happiness. Yeah, just don't say that to the homeless person who doesn't have a home, food, and needs money for medical bills. I'm pretty sure if you gave him a couple million, they'd be a lot happier than they were 5 minutes ago. It may not buy happiness directly, but it sure can buy food, a roof, security, healthcare, freedom, and the chance that they may have to stop worrying if they're gonna survive tomorrow. Follow your dreams. Now I get this, you know, it sounds all good, but what happens if you literally can't? Like imagine pulling up to a hospital and telling a kid with no arms and no legs to become a professional basketball player. Not only are you giving him some hope, but the kid will probably think you're being sarcastic. Like, what do you mean, follow my dreams? I've got no arms or no legs. As Thanos said once.
Reality is often disappointing.
Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get, but you do know what you're gonna get. You just turn the box around, then you know exactly what you're gonna get. The person who said this quote had one job, and they failed. A box of chocolates is probably one of the worst examples they could have picked, because the whole point of buying a box of chocolates is that you know what's inside the box of chocolates. Kill them with kindness. This is one of those phrases that sound nice, but when you actually come back to reality, you realise this is the most stupidest phrase ever. We followed this advice, the world you know would simply not exist. Imagine it's World War II, you don't even have a weapon, and your only plan is to walk up to Nazis and kill them with kindness. Like they're gonna listen to what you're saying, they'll just whip out the MP40 and start shooting. Sometimes people don't respond to kindness, sometimes people take advantage of kindness.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
And this brings us upon a similar quote. Violence is never the answer. Everyone's heard this phrase at one point, but there are situations where you actually need to do the opposite and be violent. Someone steps on your shoe. You better be sure if you pull out a 44 Magnum, he ain't gonna do that shit again. You see, by using violence, the problem's solved. It's as simple as that. They died doing what they loved. Well, what they loved doing was living. This phrase never really made sense because it ignores what actually happened. Take a pilot who dies in a plane crash. People will say with a straight face, well, he died doing what he loved. I'm pretty sure that pilot, in his final moments, what he was actually doing was trying not to die. And upon that, he was probably scared shitless trying to survive. Now, if you take someone who passed away peacefully in a bed while eating a deep dish pizza and watching TV, surrounded by their family, then sure, you could argue they died doing what they love. But if your final moments are spent screaming or in agonizing pain, you certainly did not die doing what you love. And you can take the most outrageous scenario ever, and you realize how stupid this phrase is. Imagine someone loves skydiving. One day, their parachute fails, they survive the impact, spend years in hospital with life-changing injuries, and eventually die. Are we really gonna say they died love what they're doing? They died years later in a hospital bed, eating from a feeding tube. I love eating pizza. That doesn't mean I want to choke to death while eating it. And if someone dare says I died doing what I love, I'll come back to life and really die doing what I love, choking a smartass out. But that's all the dumb sayings I have for today. However, if you have heard any dumb sayings, put it down in the comments below. Other than that,
Toodaloo, motherfucker.